I'm Alexandra Kreis, and you're listening to How to Travel in a Journey. Hello, and welcome to How to Travel in a Journey. My guest today is Jutta Patis. Hello, Jutta. Jutta Patis.
Hello, Alexandra.
Hi, Jutta. Good to see you here. Jutta Patis was born and raised in Austria near Vienna. She was a former consultant, now owner of 2 companies in Berlin and Potsdam. And she lives in Potsdam with her family and her 4, I think they are rescue dogs, so 4 dogs. And then she loves writing and is a yoga and Ayurveda lifestyle junkie. Yay! Hi, Jutta.
Hello.
This is quite an introduction to you. You told me you started traveling like way back to foreign countries from early age on. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? How you came?
Yes. I traveled very early alone because my father had a small company and felt obligated to stay at home. So I was sent away to experience the culture of Italy, for example, and so I traveled with 12 and 13 all by myself. I had a girlfriend with me to see Florence and Rome and all the big cities and beautiful places in Italy. But it felt very strange for me to be taken away from your parents and put into a bus and drive all the way without any connection back then. You know, there was no
internet,
handy or cell phone or anything or internet, nothing at all. So you felt really cut off from your nest, from your comfort zone.
Oh,
and that felt and I had a very overprotective mother. Wow. And she was very fearful raising me, and that felt even worse because on the one hand she was so overprotective, and on the other hand I had to see the world. I was an only child, so she wanted me to be around people and experience things and not being cut off of the world, basically.
What
and
was
of
that like
other
for
people.
What was that like
was
for
the
you?
reason. And yes, it was quite something.
What I have been, I've been seeking,
like I said,
I've been seeking traveling myself, at a certain age. It was more for getting away from home and not being sent from home. But somehow I know that kind of sense of feeling cut off suddenly from the familiarity of what's around us. Yeah. So
that's what I did later. Later I decided on my own to go away and travel when I was 17. But back then it felt left alone, purposely left alone. And it felt I was devastated, actually. I have to say we were not all by ourselves. We were with such a group, an organization of very older people, 70-year-old people, which didn't want to take care of those 2 girls around. And so we took care of ourselves, and we didn't see much of the sightseeing there because my girlfriend liked to go around and look at other children and find teenagers to talk to. But yes, it felt really odd, I have to say. But there you have to step out of your comfort zone immediately. And early on, I experienced how it feels to have a complete identity shift, or to see the illusion where you come from, actually, because it was a language I didn't speak. And I couldn't communicate. And that's how I felt every time I traveled. Even if I spoke the language a little bit like English, it felt like I go into a bubble of my own reality with my own patterns and have to slice them down slowly and open up and stop the self-talk. And you know, it's astonishing too, because you are startled first and your senses are everywhere, and the self-talk is anyway immediately stopping at first place. And then you have to find a new way of communicate and navigate through the new world you are in. And if you go in a foreign country to travel, it's something completely different than when you actually want to go to live there, or if you find yourself working in a foreign country for a longer period of time.
It's like, it gives us, to me, it was a sense of giving myself a new identity. I mean, I played this with some of my friends, like when I was 18 and I was still living back home, and we went to parties, and then we started spinning stories about who we were to other people that didn't know us, but it didn't feel good to me. But when I encountered what you were saying right there, you know, going out to a foreign country, nobody knows you, you can have suddenly superpowers. You could be anybody in that point, right? It's like what most of us do when they start traveling and maybe living in other countries. That was certainly your experience, I heard. Yeah. So, and then you obviously weren't scared away from that feeling that you encountered in your early age. And how did it go on? Because you lived outside of Austria for a long time now. Yeah?
Oh yes, for a very long time. The next experience I made was when I was 17. I same like teenager, wanted to go away from home and see the world, and it didn't hold me back, that early experiences in Italy, to try to do it again.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I went to Spain, and there I had very, very strange encounters, because I caught a virus there. I caught it fits in our time now. I caught a virus which was a very devastating experience. I was nearly having a living death experience there, because I almost died. It was a typical virus from that island I was on, and it was transmitted over water. And from brushing teeth, you could even get it. And I wasn't obviously not careful enough. And then a Dutch lady helped me to find a German doctor, a naturopath, I think naturopath, it's called naturopath, who mixed some kind of herbs and homeopathy and stuff like that. And I was healed in an hour or so.
What?
That was something, I'm telling you. I was going from one extreme to the next, from our culture with antibiotics and stuff like that, how I was raised, you know, this is for everything, into that other extreme. And it was just till this day amazing me how things like that could work.
Yeah.
And there I had also a motorcycle accident, and all those little bits and pieces together make you awake for a short period of time and think, either it comes out of fear, like it was with me, or some extreme trauma or something like that. And that was my chance back then already to rethink myself for the first time, really. And I discovered a yoga book then, my first little yoga booklet, which,
You discovered a yoga book which kind of led you on the path to the inner journey, so to speak, yeah?
Yeah, it let me, let's say, it let me take a little peek into something which was catching my attention very much and made me interested. And there was in the back also a vegetarian kind of a thing. In Austria, where I grew up, obviously we had schnitzels, Wiener schnitzels, stuff like that, but I never liked eating meat that much. So this was something I really was interested in. And my next escape came when I was 22, and I went to the US, and I married an US citizen who I met in Italy when I was 22 years old. And I was introduced then to a complete different culture, you obviously. And it made me feel so lonely and so torn apart. Even if you have people around you and you have a new family there, which was very much restrictive in everything they thought about Europe and prejudice also, but still they were nice to me. You feel lonely. I felt very lonely because I had the feeling now I have to live there forever. I married this man and I have to live there forever. I married in the United States. So it was something, I have to tell you. And there I found out my other books. Yes, sorry.
No, you could. You found other books? What other books did you find?
I found there Shirley MacLaine books, which were somehow new age, mumbo jumbo kind of a thing, but she spoke about meditation and some yoga stuff too. So I was again confronted with yoga, asanas, yoga practice and meditation. And that was so interesting me. And I slowly started to self-reflect and try to take bits and pieces apart of myself and see some patterns. And the loneliness was so deep rooted. And why am I so lonely? And somehow it started there already. And I became a vegetarian right after I moved to the United States. And yes, there the journey began.
So it's interesting
with ups and downs.
Yeah, so it's super interesting what I'm hearing you say, like that freedom of choosing who we are, which we can do freely for a moment in time, and then we want to come back to patterns. But when we choose to become somebody completely different because we move into a different society, can be pretty daunting if there's no inner guideline or if there's no kind of set format. That's what I'm hearing you say. Is that right?
Exactly, Alexandra. Yes, exactly. And the recalibration you have to do, and if you don't have the practice, how to, and if you don't have from your home or from your culture you come from the familiar, gotten some kind of guidance, like you said, it is very hard. And it was very hard back then. I don't know today, but back then it was very hard. Again, no Skype, no internet, nothing to connect with the familiar. And then you search for you.
And in some form a blessing, right? Because when you don't have that, you are being poked immediately into what you need to do, right? I mean, I moved to Ireland and the email was just coming up, it's been there long enough for to connect with other people, and mobile phones became popular, and but I had to still face a little bit that, which it feels like to be a foreigner amongst people that have their cultural background as a support system, as knowing how to tap into where to get jobs, where to live, all the support that you so take for granted sometimes when you settle into your own lifestyle. Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's kind of like, you need to be quick on your feet if you live a life like that. You need to find the resources, and we can do it. You don't need to be a spirited person to do it, but we all have the capability of doing that. That's what I believe in these days. If we are being pushed, I mean, the pandemic shows it more than ever, that people who were not doing one thing suddenly are able to deal with technology and Zoom conferences and So you learned a lot in this kind of what you almost like self-isolation you put yourself into. Or
this is the red thread through my life. I'm very much a self-isolated person. Again here too, because I live in Germany since a very long time. First in Berlin, now in Potsdam, and this is the same here. I'm very self-isolated again, but now it's a choice. You know, it's a choice too, but it makes it easy here because people are very much for themselves. They don't like to have community. They don't like to communicate a lot because of this border they always had, this east and the west border. They are very suspicious. They like me because I'm Austrian and they love Austria, but the west and the east, there's still so much suspiciousness. And when you travel a lot, and those people couldn't travel, you know, they miss that feeling of being able to go wherever they want and have an expansion. So this borderless kind of a feeling you have when you travel a lot, or when you lived in other countries where there are no borders anymore, where we are all the same and you are just nosy and only nosy. How is the other one? What can I learn from another country, from other people? And they miss that here a lot. And here it makes it easy to be self-isolated and have a solitary practice, which is beautiful.
Well, why do you choose these solitary practices? What does it bring to your life?
Oh, so much clarity. It's a clarity. It's a matter of what do you want to do and choose in your life. You have this clarity then, and you have a lifestyle which is very rhythmic. If you don't have so much community and obligation with communities, you can easier prioritize, and you make it easier for yourself to have a rhythm. Since I don't have family here, my husband doesn't have family at all anymore, it is very easy for me to go back and say I am in a self-isolated kind of bubble, and if I want to go outside I can. And like you said, with Zoom and everything, I can connect with you, with like-minded people, which can teach me things, which I can ask for advice, and where we can communicate in another way. And that makes it very, very easy and very beautiful to choose with who you want to communicate.
So you're preferring that. I when I listen around when I listen into conversations with neighbors, and if you look at social media, there's a lot of us though pining that we want to, go back out of that isolation. It's very, what do you get from self-isolation, and why do you need it is more my question.
Okay, then I understand. It makes me tap into my potentiality more. It makes me find talents, strengths, which I didn't know I had, because I take just data in which helps me to evolve. For example, writing is one thing. Another thing would be making illustrations, try new things out. Anything you would like to do. If you are just on the road all the time, or if you want to have always a conversation with somebody else, yes, some people it's their job, okay? But if it's not your job, then you miss something out which is in you, which wants to be brought out probably. And this is what you can detect, and you cannot detect it if you take in data from other people, informations all the time, also from the news, whatever it is. I didn't hear anything the last 3 months. What's up in the world? I have to say, maybe it seems egocentric, but I think I'm not. I'm very empathic, but I choose it purposely because it would make it harder for me.
So you feeling like you're becoming a better person. I had this conversation in a different podcast with a Swedish woman, Annika Lindberg, and she says she feels like she wants to become a better person, and she does that by also letting go of engagements, and of course she is retired, so it's even easier to say like you don't need to look after an income if you have a good outcome from your retirement. But at the end of the day, what I'm hearing you say as well, you're a person that can best connect to yourself and give back to society by, isolating yourself and just finding your own strength. And in finding your strength, you can then put that forward to, I don't know, into your business, or where do you put it when you find all these things?
into our business, to create system structures, to see more clearly what's necessary, what's not necessary, to see more clearly, is it the outside environment, or is it coming from the internal system? That's something you don't really see so clearly. Or to be more proactive and not reactive, you know. The reaction is something I really avoid, because I can fall easy into that trap, to be reactive all the time. I'm very much pitta-minded. So to be more proactive, I think that's what you gain from it. And really see what's coming from your inside, which problems are created from the inside system, or which you cannot change from the outside.
And so you were talking earlier about the liberty that we gain now that we can travel mostly anywhere or follow anywhere. And that is very reactive, right? You see that as a reactive lifestyle, opposed to probably to come into yourself, don't make as many contacts, and then kind of find your own wisdom in that isolation. If I'm
you know, it depends. Some people travel purposely for self-discovery and self-realization, like many yoga people do, right? It depends. I think if you want to escape, like the people who live here around, I don't know, everybody has to discover it on their own, but it's always an escape. I think it's always to find something you didn't have found yet, and it's always the separation. It's never the unity, and you need to have the ego as your servant, not the ego as being the master, you know. That's how I feel.
We were talking earlier about like how one can easily then come into this mentality of escaping when we have the possibility of traveling, or whatever we do, to choose to navigate ourselves through entertainment, right? And in some ways it's very hard to ask somebody to live right here, right now. This is the most kind of common spiritual practice, but to live it every moment is so difficult. That's why we find ourselves escaping a lot, like through travel, and seeking maybe also answers in, you know, the grass is greener on the other side.
But you know, Alexandra, what if we want to escape into a practice at first? Escaping into that practice of a lifestyle, of a life philosophy, that this is the first step, that we all have to escape first, and this is a choice. And if you take that route, you have maybe one time a chance to not need to escape anymore, and be present, and have the chance to, and we don't say being present all the time is necessary. It's just that little moments which are so precious, and which are never coming back again. If the sun comes in from the window and you see how everything sparkles, or you look at in the eyes of your dogs, or at your loved ones, just these few little seconds, you know. And if you don't have even that anymore, then I think it's time you should change something. And if it's escaping in a practice, like having a lifestyle, or if it's traveling, it's equal. At least if you have a little glimpse of that again, of that being present and enjoying life and seeing the beauty of a moment, that's enough.
That's it. That's enough. And that's so, you know, when we come, as you say, you called yourself a pitta mind. So just for the listener, for the audience, so pitta is a referral to the Ayurvedic system, and where they work with 5 elements, pitta representing water and fire in balance. And so pitta mind means like very kind of being very disciplined, and almost like into a clear discipleship of understanding on so many levels, but mostly on an intellectual level. That's how I see it. You know, like pitta mind, it is like clarity and sharpness of mind. And we also, of course, need other ingredients to come into other intelligence, you know, forms of intelligence in us. So when we always want to dissect something from the mind, then we cannot live, as what you're saying. I hear you. as more as I listen to you, I get the sensation for myself that when you isolate, it's to also diminish a little bit that pitter enforcement of your mind. You could so easily be outside and be discriminative and do your work as you do it brilliantly, but you're losing yourself in that. And so you're seeking out methods that are helping you to become whole, as we call it, like as in finding balance. Is that, do I get you right?
Yes, beautiful said. Exactly, beautiful said. It's otherwise I would burn out. Like you said, fire of pitta. I would have the feeling of overwhelm and rashes and burning and the sensation of fire so extremely that I would be inflamed all over, And the beauty of this, I say solitude or self-isolation is also that you connect to nature again. This is beautiful. You connect so much more to our planet and to the prana, like you can explain maybe what prana is, and to everything around you in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, to connect with life force inherently. Yeah, that's what they call prana. And a lot of people know prana through breathing. So, connecting beyond breath to everything, this exchange of giving and taking. Yeah, that's what you're
beautiful.
And that's why you do what you do. It's not to be like, a lot of us have been slapped on the fingers like, oh, you need to stay at home, you cannot, and some of us are suffering, particularly if you're in a certain age group, which we both can understand because we traveled extensively, the two of us, so if you're in your 20s and 30s and you can't do what Jutta has been doing before, of course, that it's a slap on the wrist. But for those of you who are already like gone through that process, it can be just that, that connection to nature, and then expanding in yourself. That's also something that you discover.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your own experience of expanding, Jutta? Inwardly expanding.
I think it is, again, a practice skill. Mm-hmm. If you have a certain, like I said, escape into a practice, if you have started a journey, equal where and when, and you have tools, which are lifestyle tools, or some kind of a, like you said, pranayama, it's a breathing practice, or where you have tools how you can slow down your mind, and that the mind chatter is not that extreme anymore, and you can slow down your thoughts and discriminate your thoughts and have your thought process in a different way ordered, then it starts to expand. And this is how it will start. And you have to have a little bit of patience, and you have to have a kind of determination and commitment. And if you fall in love with it, then it can't be better. And that's the key, I think. You have to love it. Yeah. And if you have experienced something in your body, or your body-mind-soul connection, which makes you fall deeply in love with this practice and with everything around you, you will not, you don't want to let go of it anymore. It's like coffee in another sense.
It's like coffee in the best coffee.
It makes you high, or it makes you happy. It heightens your serotonin level.
Yes. And just to clarify something for the listener, like I am talking to people who made lifestyle choices, like they're seeking out that connection, their profession. And Jutta is one of the people that I'm talking to that does not do it. I mean, when she's talking about, Jutta, when you are talking about practices, you really only do that for yourself, and you have these practices for yourself while you're running a business that is not related at all to the to those subjects. How is that? Why do you feel you can have like a business? How is that? How can you separate it, or how can you give inspiration to my audience or our audience listeners? How do you manage to entangle that, to live such an ordinary business while you're doing extraordinary practices for self-engagement?
I think those both cannot be separated. You have to live an ordinary life and do that practice, because this is life, you know, that practice is life.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, and I do my practice like everybody else is, getting up in the morning, doing their whatever. Some go jogging, some do this, some do that. I do my asanas in the morning. I do my pranayama very early in the morning. I make my self-reflection, my journaling. This is part of the practice. And then I do a normal lifestyle like everybody else, but I know what I do. And I think people need to know what they do for their constitution, and for their well-being. And everybody is so different. You cannot say that's what I do is for the other one the same good. No, everybody has to find their constitution, or their place where they live, the season. And that's how I do it. Just like every other person has their practices, no different ones than I have, the ones we grew up with, if you will. And I have adapted or remolded it a little bit into a Ayurveda and yoga lifestyle. But it's not so much different. And I try to incorporate it in our company, that I have a special rhythm. When do we do planning? When do we do the execution? How do we do the planning? So I try to take it into our business as well. And it works. It works perfectly.
Yeah, and I think you helped other people already with that kind of concept. It just, sorry.
Yeah. It just is like everything, a habit, you know?
Yeah, you can bring positive lifestyle and insights into your company, or into what you might feel is super mundane, while you feel you're coaxed into meditation, or you feel like you should become a meditation teacher. I meet so many people who feel inspired by ancient practices with deep wisdom behind them, and then they feel they need to make that their day-to-day kind of intake and money churning power. And what's happened, we have an industry that's called yoga, which is so funny to call it an industry. But it has become an industry because everybody thought it's so beautiful, I'm going to make money with it. But I'm so happy to hear you saying what you're saying. We can live ordinary lives and still be on a quest of what's bigger, and how we can expand inside, and how we can stop the outer travel when once needed to come into the inner travel.
Yeah. And you don't have to teach asanas to somebody else to do that. You don't have to teach meditation to somebody else. In our house, my husband doesn't do the meditation, nor does my mother, but they still have something from it. They still, it's the whole environment is different because of it, and it's more easeful, and it's more grounded here at home. And like I said, you can choose to take your wisdom or your practice into an ordinary life of a business or a company, like I do.
Yeah, and then see the joy in that, how that life inhabiting a company, an ordinary company, into something that is connected with nature again, even though it doesn't look like from the outside, if you're not saving trees or I don't know what. But yeah, that's profound. Thank you for that.
Because you say saving nature, yeah, thank you. Because you said you don't need to save nature, every tree. You do it anyway. If you this practice, you do it anyway. And we chose in our company to drive, I think we say electrical e-cars. Yeah. So that's what I chose. And we have solar panels up here, So we don't even take the normal electricity. We let all of our cars they have been fueled here. So there are so many choices you can do to help and contribute on small levels, which are actually very big. And it's the small thing. You don't have to always think I have to go to this organization, make this happen, this. It's the very small choices for yourself you do, which makes such a contribution.
Yeah, we shouldn't underestimate the small steps. That's what you're saying, right? Instead of feeling we need to always think of everything consciously that we do, it's impossible in this world. If we want to enjoy what we've kind of given to each other through technology and whatever, we also need to enjoy it and then kind of see where we can make amends with what we're doing and not constantly, I don't know, stake out on the not so positive for the planet. Yeah, but there's so many levels of positivity that we can touch upon, like looking after people or looking after what you do, you know, like rescuing dogs, looking into e-bikes and e-cars, or whatever you feel inspired to do.
Yeah. And whatever comes along your way, you have to open your eyes. You know, sometimes you want to overthink it and try to do something for the world or for you, you know, but and then you miss what is just on your way, standing there and wants to be seen.
Yeah, exactly.
Many opportunities.
Yeah. So coming back to the very beginning of what you said and expressed, is like life is so beautiful, and all these little moments, we should rather kind of look out for not missing moments of opportunities instead of sweating the big stuff. Yeah. Okay, Jutta, thank you for coming on to this show. I feel so delighted to have had that conversation with you. Is there anything you'd
Thank
like?
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Overcoming my fear.
Good.
I was overcoming my fear because I neglected English for so long. So you helped me, challenging me. Thank you.
That's a positive outcome. Is there anything you want to leave our audience with? Is there something where they can pick you up, or an advice you want to give to at the end of this show?
I think I cannot give an advice, but I think the attachments which are now around everywhere, we should not overthink them, and let go, like your guest, the Swedish lady, said, and let go of all the attachments to new news or something, and not overthink it too much, and choose a practice which is helping us to evolve and expand. And not only need to travel, but even wherever you are, you can expand and see the world from an angle you have never seen before.
Exactly. Look for that little voice inside of you, and then to see where you're driven to, what books you need to pick up to find your own way of expanding inside. Yeah.
Or who is your coach? Who is your mentor? Who is your guide? Yeah. You know, so many people need guidance, and we are not raised to have some guide here in Austria or Germany. We think we have to do everything on our own, and I think this is something people should, especially in Germany and the German-speaking culture, see, that there are people out there, not psychotherapists, you know, not psychotherapists only. There are other people which open up so many possibilities, like you do, Alexandra, as a coach and as a guide, and building communities where people feel comfortable, where they feel at home, and where they feel at home, expansive and still protected. This is something we should look after, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Where we feel safe and still inspired. Yeah, that's what I think. That's a good place to land. If you can expand in yourself without always feeling you have to sacrifice too much, you know, the little steps are important. Well, thank you again, and thanks to the audience for showing up today, listening in to Jutta and my conversation on expanding. And I say goodbye to Jutta. Thank you for coming once more.
Goodbye, Alexandra. Cheers.
Goodbye, everybody. See you next time.